What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, Under Center with Abelson, presented by the Real Spiel podcast. Week 3 of college football is officially in the books. Another weekend of absolute madness and chaos that we saw. A lot of upsets, a lot of terrible performances, a lot of teams sold. Didn't have the best weekend, didn't have the worst weekend. Got some stuff right, got some stuff wrong. But we will get into all that. Before we get into it, like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend. Trying to grow the page. We are here a couple times a week talking all things college football. But yeah, with that being said, I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get into the show. We will start things off with the first big matchup of the weekend, the 12 o'clock kickoff, Clemson versus Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech takes down number 12 Clemson at home in a big time win for that program. Brent Key, he is officially 7-1 against ACC or against ranked opponents in general since he's been the coach, I think, since 2022. For whatever reason, he just always gets up for these big time matchups. Last year, obviously, he beat Miami towards the end of the season. That kind of derailed Miami's playoff chances. And I don't know why I doubted them. I was on Clemson on this side. I took Clemson minus 3.5. I actually took a minus 2.5. I thought that they were just going to have, this was a good bounce back spot for Clemson. I thought, Clemson, their offense, this is what we're going to get more in depth to. Their offense specifically, it's just up and down and inconsistent. They'll have bad moments. They'll have good moments. And I just thought they're bad. They've been playing pretty badly all year, the first two games, that I thought this was going to be a bounce back spot for their offense. But clearly I was wrong, and I'm starting to think that Clemson is just what they are. It's kind of weird because it's just so bizarre to see a team like this have so much hype coming into the season, but the hype was justified. You had a quarterback who played well last year, who ended the year extremely well. You had all this returning production. I think they had the most returning production in the country. I think 86% of the roster came back. It was 82 on defense, 82 on the offense, 86 on the defense. Percent of the roster came back, and a lot of those guys were experienced guys. Not just they have some freshmen and stuff coming back, but a lot of their guys were experienced guys. Their offensive line, basically 4 of the stars on the offensive line came back. Their quarterback came back, who's obviously in his 3rd year starting, second odds preseason to win the Heisman. Even if he wasn't going to win the Heisman, you thought Cade Klubnik was going to take that next step after, kind of having the season he did after that Georgia game last year. He kind of went on a tear, threw for 35-plus touchdowns, almost 4,000 yards. Ended the season extremely well. Obviously played well against Texas. So it's really bizarre to see a team like Clemson have all this preseason hype that it seems justified, and come in just so flat and almost lifeless. It just does not make sense. And we keep expecting Clemson to take that next national championship contending step. And we thought it was going to be this year. But again, I'm starting to think Clemson is just who they are. I mean, when people show, as the great Andy Staples says, when people show you who they are, sometimes you just got to believe them. And I think we just got to believe Clemson. This is who they are. They're a good team. They can win the ACC. They still have a great chance of winning the ACC. But when push comes to shove, this group just cannot reach those expectations. And again, like I said, it's pretty bizarre because you have 4 projected first round draft picks. Cade Klubnik, Peter Woods, TJ Parker, got elite receivers. Obviously, Antonio Williams was out against Georgia Tech, but Brian Wesco and a couple other guys. Brian Wesco absolutely balled, 126 yards, I think 2 touchdowns, so he absolutely balled. But it's just so bizarre to see all this talent on a roster, especially Dabo Swinney is no pushover. This is a 2-time national championship winning coach in this college football playoff era. When it was the 4-team playoff, when it was way harder, this is a guy who went to, I think, 3 national championships in that era, won 2 of them. He is not just some bum coach. He can coach. He knows what he's doing. And it seems like his teams over the last few years just have not been able to elevate. And again, it's very bizarre to see. But yeah, shout out Georgia Tech, man. They played a tough, physical game. Obviously, Georgia Tech brand. Haynes King threw for 200 plus yards. He ran for another 100 yards, 25 carries. Tough physical runs. Ran for a rushing touchdown. Um, I mean, Georgia Tech, they just know their brand. They stick with it. They shove you around. They out physical you. In that first half, Clemson's offense just absolutely nothing. Georgia Tech, I think, goes up to a 13-0 lead. Kate Klubnik has a fumble. They just can't do anything almost. Like I was watching a TikTok and somebody said the best way to describe Clemson's offense is like tight. Like every time they get on the field, and I thought that was the perfect way to describe it. Every time Clemson's offense gets on the field, it almost feels like it's like a 2 minute drill game like tying, game defying offensive series. They're just so tight. K Klubnik is so tight. He's been playing with what seems like no confidence this year. He's always running out of the pocket. He's not staying poised. And I just don't know what's going on with Clemson's offense. And again, the defense played well enough to win. Obviously, when your offense is not doing absolutely anything and your defense is consistently on the field, at some point they're gonna break. But to hold, Georgia Tech the 13 point lead in the first half. Clemson, but I will say Clemson did come out of the second half. That offense turned around. They even took the lead to 14-3. K. Klubnik started looking a little more comfortable. Brian Wesco, like I said, he absolutely balled. He was pretty much the only receiver that did anything. I'm pretty sure the next receiver only maybe had like 30 yards. But yeah, Brian Wesco had, 126 yards. I think 2 touchdowns. And it looked like Clemson wasn't gonna get one. It really did. It really did. They were able to be a little more effective with running the ball. Clemson ran for 80 yards. I think the running back ran for 80 yards. Klubnik ran for another 40. I think they ran overall for about 100, 180, 190 yards. So they were a little more effective with the ground game. I know people are going to talk about Dabo and how he iced his own kicker, but didn't ice Georgia Tech kicker. I honestly think that was fine, not calling a timeout. Georgia Tech didn't have any timeouts. They did like that, fire drill thing where you run the ball knowing you don't have any timeouts. There was 20 seconds, however many seconds left. You rush your field goal kicking team out there. I think it's honestly fine not to call a timeout there because in that situation, in my opinion, you don't want to give the kicker you don't want to give the field goal, the special teams unit, extra time to get set up. So when they're rushed out there, knowing that they're about to have to kick a game-winning field goal, I think that adds more pressure to it because you don't get time to settle in. You don't get time to – you got to go. So I thought that was fine, not calling a timeout. Obviously, the game was tied, so that took some pressure off of the kicker because no matter what, the game was going into overtime. But nonetheless, man, Clemson, they got some soul-searching to do. Obviously, they're not out of it, but the road is a lot harder. I'm pretty sure Clemson still play – I know they play Louisville. I'm going to look at their schedule real quick. They play Louisville. I think they play Florida State. Obviously, they play South Carolina. They play SMU. Yeah, they play Florida State. They play South Carolina. They play SMU. They play Louisville. So having 2 early losses, it's going to make it a lot tougher, but they only have 1 conference loss, which is the most important part. If they can still make the ACC championship game, they can still win it like they did last year. I think that's the only time over the last 4-ish years that you can really trust Dabo is in the ACC championship game. That feels like the only big game he can win at this point. But yeah, Clemson, they got some soldier searching to do, man, because this offense just looks stuck and they just look all out of sorts. And I don't know what's going on. It's bizarre. The whole Clemson team is bizarre right now. Next, we'll talk about a game we were kind of right about. That's the thing about. That's why betting against the spread is so hard. Anybody can just pick a winner and a loser. Um, but I think to bet the spread, you have to actually have more of an understanding of what's going on, because you could be completely right about your analysis, completely right about everything, and you still lose. It still technically goes down as an L, which the game we're about to talk about is basically how it went. Georgia, Tennessee, college game day, Kirk Herbstreit, Chris Fowler. This game definitely lived up kind of to the hype. Was surprisingly a shootout. I really honestly did not expect this one to be a shootout. There were a couple shootouts that I did not see coming, and this was one of them, man. I thought this was going to be a tough, defensive slugfest. Obviously, we know the type of defensive brand that Georgia plays. Tennessee, I think over the last couple of years, it's always about their offense, the high explosive offense, the down the field passing, the running game. But their defense is, I don't even know if you want to call it underrated, but Tennessee always has a great defense, and it's usually not talked about in this big picture of their team, but their defense is always pretty solid. And Georgia's defense just came out absolutely flat in the first quarter. Obviously, Joey Aguilar, I think in the first quarter he went 16 for 16 with 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tennessee jumps out to an early 21-7 lead. Honestly, I'm not gonna say I was a little nervous, because I knew it was so early in the game that there was still so much football left to be played. And Georgia is a team that you can never count them out. That Georgia, like Alabama last year, they went down 28-0 or whatever it was and came all the way back, took the lead. Obviously, Ryan Williams ended the game, but you can never count a Kirby-led team out. They're gonna fight till the end. And that defense they just honestly kind of looked shell shocked at first. I don't know if they weren't expecting Joe Aguilar to do that. Obviously, Tennessee has been lighting it up. I think they've scored the most points in their first 2 games in the country. They've been lighting it up, and I don't know if they weren't expecting it, but they came out slow. They came out flat, but eventually after the first quarter, the defense started to settle in, and from there, the offense of Georgia started to settle in. It was almost like a tale of two halves, because once Gunnar Stockton started to get going, the game flipped big time. Tennessee just looked like a completely different team in the second half. Obviously, in the first half, they were getting whatever they wanted. Joey Aguilar was picking that Georgia defense apart. And in the second half, Joey Aguilar kind of looked rattled. I don't know if he was starting to think too much. I don't know if he wasn't just not playing loose, but that Georgia defense really picked it up. I think in the second half, they got 3 and out, I think, on their first 3 or 4 possessions. Tennessee did. And Georgia went on to score 20 unanswered points to take the lead. Gunnar Stockton, I know he's not this high marquee name, not this flashy quarterback, but I think that game shows you exactly why Kirby Smart wanted to ride with Gunnar Stockton after Carson Beck left, and had a confidence in him, because he's just a gamer, man. He's just a gamer. In that first quarter, kind of in the first half, he wasn't playing extremely well. Looked a little timid out there, But once he started to get settled in, he was making some good throws. He was using his legs. Georgia was able to run the ball. I think that's what really, really helped them. That first possession coming out of the half, I think, was a statement. They ran 13. They took 13 plays, 8 minutes off the clock. I think they ran 11 of those 13 plays, and then they just punched one in the end zone. I thought that was a big momentum shifter in terms of Georgia kind of taking control of the game. But that's not really how it went, because Georgia, Tennessee in the second half, they were able to counter most of those punches in the second half. Obviously, in the second half, Joey Aguilar had that bomb of a touchdown that I think that might have gave Tennessee the lead, but it was going back and forth. And honestly, I thought Georgia was dead to right, man. I thought Georgia was absolutely dead to right in that fourth quarter. I forgot what the play was. I don't know if it was a turnover or a fumble or something, but Tennessee had good field position. This was the play before Georgia went on to go tie the game. Tennessee had good field position. No, this was the play that Tennessee had to tie the game. or to take the 8 point lead because it was 35-30, and Tennessee had the ball. But then I think they just ran it two or three straight times when they were like close to getting into the red zone. I thought they should have been more aggressive there. They settled for the field goal to make it 38 to. They settled for the field goal to make it 38-30, and then Georgia obviously drove down the field. I thought this showed on 4th and 6. You just need 6 yards. I thought they were just going to be maybe a little conservative, maybe try and do some out route or something in the middle. But they go for it all. A beautiful throw, a beautiful catch by the receiver to make it 36-38. And then obviously it was a great call on that out route to Zachariah Branch on the 2 point conversion. And Georgia tied it. And then obviously Tennessee. That was an impressive drive by Tennessee. There was not much you can do in that situation. You do everything right. You do everything right. You run the ball. You burn some clock. You get your kicker into the middle of the field. I think it was, a 44-yard field goal. I honestly, if I'm being honest, I knew he wasn't making it. The whole time they just kept showing him, and they were saying he was having to do these taking deep, big breaths to calm himself down and all this stuff. And I just didn't have a feeling he was going to make it. This just felt like a Tennessee versus Georgia moment. Obviously, over the last 8 years, Georgia has beaten Tennessee by 14 or more points. I mean, it just felt like Tennessee just wasn't going to win this game. It felt like they weren't meant to win this game. And obviously, the kicker misses the field goal. Game goes into overtime. Georgia elects to be on defense first. They hold Joey Aguilar and that Tennessee offense to a field goal. Georgia gets the ball. Nate Frazier breaks loose for a big run, gets the ball to like the 5-yard line, and then they just punch it in. Again, this is one I was wrong about. I was right, but we're technically wrong about it. I had Georgia minus 3.5. This is the thing that sucks about betting. I had Georgia minus 3.5, and they won by 3 because they won in overtime, and they didn't get to kick the extra point. If they would have scored in regulation, they would have got to kick the extra point, which again would have covered the 3.5 point spread because they would have won by 4. But because you're in overtime, once you score the touchdown, the game is over, and they won by 3. You can't make that up. I'm still convinced Vegas. I know Vegas doesn't actually rig these games, but it's games and situations like this that just make it so hard to believe sometimes, because you can't make that up, man. You can't make that up. So it's technically an L against the spread. We'll count that as an L against the spread in the record books. But I still feel confident on my analysis in the game. Georgia. The reason I said I like Georgia is because you just cannot bet on a Kirby Smart team. They just find ways to win. This is a game that they should honestly have lost. They did not start good early. They kind of clock management situations, and they kind of felt like the game was slipping from them towards the end. But they get a missed field goal from the kicker. They handle business in overtime. And it's just it always feels like, I feel like a lot of people were on Tennessee. This game. I mean, you had the justification. They were at home. Tennessee was playing well. They played obviously well enough to win this game. But yeah, you can never count Kirby Smart out, and I just can't bet against Kirby because of a game like this. So shout out to Kirby. Both of these teams, obviously Tennessee still has plenty to play for. I'm still overly impressed with Tennessee and how they've played this year. I just did not think Joey Aguilar was going to get acclimated to that system in time. This is a guy who came in the spring portal, came in late. I just truly didn't think he was going to have the time to get in tune with that Josh Heupel system. But Tennessee is looking good. I think they're going to continue to play well. And they got Alabama next month. They got a couple other big games. And I think Kirby Smart and Georgia, obviously, they're my favorite to win the SEC. Well, actually, I think Texas was my favorite, but Georgia, I also did bet Georgia to win the SEC because I was a little more confident in Georgia. But yeah, both of these teams still have a lot to play for. Next up, we got Florida versus LSU, Death Valley at night. Um, this game, man, I I just don't know where you go if you're a Florida fan. I don't know where you guys go from this. I don't know what you do. This schedule is only going to get harder. This is a tough spot to be if you're a Florida fan. Um, Felt like a game you could have very well won. LSU has been getting a lot of hype. I think that Clemson game is starting to not age as well. Obviously, still a good win, but obviously seeing the way Clemson has been playing these last couple weeks, that win might not be as impressive as we thought once. And I think because there was that conversation between LSU and Ohio State, oh, who's the number one team in the country? I think we can clear. Obviously, Ohio State. Actually, no, they were tested. They played Texas, but Texas might not be the team we thought either. Either way, though, LSU it's weird because I've seen some improvements with him. It feels and it looks like a different team, but it still just does not feel like they're firing on all cylinders, especially that offense. The defense has been playing impressive. The defense, I think it's justified to say the defense has improved, holding that Clemson offense to 10 points, holding Florida to 10 points and 5 turnovers. I think the defense has been playing well, but the offense, it's just not firing on all cylinders as I thought it would be, especially with bringing back Garrett Nussmeier. Obviously, last year, I think the offense was exceptionally well. The offense is kind of what gave them the season they had. Felt explosive at times last year, like during that Ole Miss game. Garrett Nussmeier was just letting it rip. I thought he was going to come back, take another step. And again, there's still a lot of season left to be played, but I think this game was a prime example that just something isn't 100% clicking. To only score 13 points on your offense, obviously they scored 20. I think they had that pick six. But the offense to only score 13 points, especially when you have 5 interceptions, that's something's just not right. 5 interceptions against that Florida team, who's obviously feels like their season's starting to derail, and you only come up with 13 offensive points. Yeah, and like I said, if you're a Florida fan, I don't really know where you go from here. This was a game that I was right about this one. I had LSU to cover the spread. 7.5 just felt good. I even said I think LSU might win by double digits. But the spread felt nice. It just felt like Florida season is, like I said, just kind of starting to come off the trains. It's DJ Lagway. I didn't. Yeah, but this just did not feel like a game that I just saw Florida winning. And again, DJ Lagway, I know it's been Billy Napier. He's been the talk of the story, talk of the town. Get Billy Napier out of here. But I just can't put this game on him. I just can't put this loss on him. Like I said, DJ Lagway just has not looked right all year. I don't know if obviously he missed time during camp, had some injuries. He missed spring camp. I think missed some time during fall camp. I thought that's kind of what it was. He just really hadn't had enough time to get up to speed. But we're 3 games in to the season, and he's only getting worse. He's been getting worse gradually every year, which if you're trying to get accustomed, get back into speed with everything, it would only make sense that over the course of the year you'd be getting better. But he's getting worse, and top it off with a 5 interception game. Like, I watched all those interceptions. All of them except one were just terrible. The last one, he got forced out of the pocket, was trying to throw the ball, I think, out, just throw the ball away on the other side of the field, just didn't get enough under it, interception. Throwing a ball into triple coverage on a go route or whatever, all the way down the field in the end zone, triple coverage, he overthrew it, interception. There was that one where he threw it over the middle, just didn't see the safety dropping down, interception. I just don't know what you do as a coach when your quarterback's just not seeing the field well. That in my opinion, that's completely on DJ Lagway. But obviously Billy Napier is going to get some of the blame for it. Florida's defense played well enough to win. If you don't throw a pick six, You gave up 13 points. 13 points at LSU on the road. If you would have told Florida, if you gave up 13 offensive points in that game, do you guys think you win? I'm pretty sure they say they thought they would win. Um, but they didn't. They didn't. LSU, obviously the spread was 7.5 and they covered the spread, but obviously missed some opportunities when you have 5 interceptions and you still only score 13 points. But it's going to be very interesting in these next few weeks what's going to happen with Florida. Obviously, their schedule is only getting tougher. They play Miami next week, who looks extremely well. We'll touch on that game versus South Florida, but they play Miami next week on the road. They play Texas. They play Texas A&M, who got a huge win in Notre Dame. We'll talk about that as well. Their season only gets tougher. Like, there's a real possibility that Florida doesn't even win 4 games. It sounds insane to say. It truly does, but there is a possibility that Florida might not win 4 games. Because they got Miami, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Georgia, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State. I don't like their odds against Miami. Miami being only a 3-point favorite right now is kind of wild, because I thought they would be way more than a 3-point favorite. But that, just based off of my opinion, that's going to be a loss. Texas, the way Texas is playing doesn't, that game is, but I have more confidence in Sark than I do Billy Napier. So that game could be a loss. Texas A&M obviously could be a loss, or might be a loss. Georgia, I think, would be a loss. Ole Miss might be a loss. Tennessee loss. Florida State loss. It's not a far-fetched possibility that Florida only ends up winning 4 games. Which obviously Billy Napier is going to be out if that happens. And tough, man. Tough if you're a Florida fan. But yeah, shout out LSU. They didn't play their best game, but made enough plays to win, and they won. Next up, we will talk about an incredible game we had late. Texas A&M versus Notre Dame. This was another one where I liked the under on this one, and obviously, I guess defense wasn't in the cards this weekend, because a lot of these teams, in a lot of these games, the overhit, especially this one. This had defensive slugfest all over it. These are 2 tough line of scrimmage teams who have tough defenses, who play a tough brand of football. You couldn't have convinced me the final score would have been 41-40, but it was an incredible game. This one was Notre Dame early. It felt like they had complete control of the game, especially in the first half. They come out of the gates immediately. They block a punt within the first 2 minutes of the game, and then they go up 7-0. But then the story of the first half was Texas A&M just kept on responding. Notre Dame would score, go down. They went up 14-7. Texas A&M, I think at this time they actually didn't score. They got stopped. But then Notre Dame went down again. Didn't score, but they got a field goal, 17-7. Texas A&M went down, scored. Notre Dame went down again, scored 24 to make it 24-7. Texas A&M goes down, scores, makes it 24-4 or to 14. That's just what I saw in the first half. Notre Dame just always felt like they were ready to pull away. They would get a 10-point lead. It just felt like they just couldn't, though. Texas A&M just kept hanging around in that first half, keeping it close. And in the second half, they kind of finally flipped the switch a little bit and were able to get the lead. And towards that end of the third quarter, they were just trading field goals and stuff. The fourth quarter, this is a game. This is going to be a tough pill to swallow if you're Notre Dame, man. You needed this one. You played the best teams on your schedule in the first 2 weeks, obviously with Miami and Notre Dame. They're the only 2 ranked teams you have played so far and that you are going to play as it stands right now. Obviously, USC could be ranked. Arkansas, who knows, probably not. But as of right now, these were the top 2 teams on your schedule and the 2 only real opponents on your schedule when it comes to college football playoff resume building. And it sucks because It looked like Notre Dame had this one in the bag, man. It looked like they had this one in the bag. They obviously go down, they go down and take the lead. Jeremiah Love, they converted a 4th and 1. Jeremiah Love runs in about a 20-yard touchdown with like 2.5 minutes left, and then the play, the play that obviously lost him the game. Got to feel bad for Tyler Buckner. He's obviously, I think is he the one that went to go play lacrosse and then came back? And either way, though, Tyler Buckner muffs the snap of the extra point after they take the lead. Muffs the snap, rolls out. Obviously, just doesn't get the ball in the end zone. And it felt like it was going to come back to bite them. That's a play that happens. That play doesn't happen for no reason. That's a play that happens, and something is going to come out of it. And what came out of it was obviously they lost by 1 point. Marcel Reed drove them down there, made a couple great passes, got them into the red zone, and it felt like A&M was going to A&M. It felt like they were, because I think they got to the 5-yard line. I think they might have had 2 flags. I think they might have had a false start and then maybe a holding, but it brought them out to 3rd and goal out on the 11 or 12-yard line. Didn't complete that pass, and it was 4th and goal. It felt like Notre Dame was going to get the stop, but Marcel Reed scrambles out of the pocket, finds his big tight end, throws it jump ball. His tight end just makes an incredible catch, and obviously they kick the extra point, and they win by 1 point. The single point that they needed on that point after conversion. That's a tough pill to swallow. That is a tough pill to swallow. Marcel Reed, man, shout out to Marcel Reed. I thought I was wrong about this game. I obviously had Notre Dame minus. I had Notre Dame minus 6.5, which again, talking about betting, I thought I was about to be in a position where I was going to have to punch the TV, because Notre Dame, I had them minus 6.5. That was the spread. They score a touchdown to go up by 6, and they muff the point after touchdown to not cover the spread. That would have put them at 7, up by 7. I know it doesn't matter at this in the day, but this is just something I want to rant about. They were about to go up by 7, and then ended with Notre Dame winning by 6. I'm honestly happy they lost, and the spread just didn't matter either way, because if they would have won by 6 points, I would have been so mad. I would have been so mad. But like I said, doesn't matter. They ended up losing. Marcel Reed, I thought if Texas A&M had a chance of winning, he was going to have to use his legs a little more, just because that secondary of Notre Dame and that defense in general is just solid. I thought he was going to have to make a lot of plays with his legs, but it was kind of the opposite, man. This guy threw for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. The receivers, man, they got some studs at the receiver. Obviously, Concepcion, he was the big name. But Mario Craver caught for 206 yards. He was absolutely balling. But Marcel Reed was just making big play after big play through the air. He had like that 40-yard not a touchdown pass, but he had that 40-yard throw to Concepcion that he got tackled at like the 2-yard line. He was just constantly making big time throws over the middle. He was staying poised. He was staying in the pocket, and that's a big shout out, man. That's a big time win. I'm not high on Texas. I haven't been too high on Texas A&M these last few years, not because of any type of way I feel about the team, but because they just always feel like they're gonna get in their own way, and then they just always feel like they're gonna end the win with 6. They're gonna end the season with 6, 7, 8 wins, just be average. But this was a big statement win for them, especially in the SEC this year that feels up for grabs. No team early has kind of taken a hold of the conference. Obviously, Alabama's lost. Florida, LSU did start great, but they just don't look complete. Georgia had some question marks, got some of those answered against Tennessee. Texas, obviously, Arch Manning had another, subpar performance against an inferior team. So Texas has a lot of question marks. So this year, it does feel like the SEC is up for grabs. And if you're Texas A&M, you have to feel like, why can't we be the one? Why can't we be the one who takes it? Last year, they got close. They the game against Texas at the end of the season, the winner of that game would have gone to the SEC championship game. Um, Texas A&M was one win away from the SEC championship game last year, so you have to feel, if you're a Texas A&M fan, this could be a year you guys can just very well win the SEC. So again, that was a big time win for Texas A&M to go on the road against Notre Dame, a desperate Notre Dame, and win that game. And if you're Notre Dame, man, it's looking tough. Like I said, for like Clemson, that's another 2-loss team who started 1-2. Clemson still has a lot of opportunities to make the college football playoff. Obviously, the foolproof path is to just win their conference. They simply can just win their conference. Notre Dame does not have that ability. They are independent. This is where being independent comes back to bite you. Obviously, you don't have to take that extra loss if you play in a conference championship game, but this is where it comes back to bite you when you need that extra win to try and help you boost your resume, and you can't get it. And again, the rest of their schedule is not looking too good. They don't have, at the moment, any more ranked teams on their schedule. They play USC. USC is going to be a pretty good team. They could very well be ranked at that time. They might very well be ranked at that time, but then you play Arkansas, Boise State. So there's not a lot of meat on that schedule. So this was one you really, really had to have. I don't want to say Notre Dame's out, because obviously a lot of stuff can happen that opens doors for them to get in. But it's going to be very tough for Notre Dame to, I think, make the college football playoff at this point. I think they have to be absolutely dominant for the rest of the games. I think you can't just win the games. You have to absolutely dominate every single opponent you play for the rest of the season to give yourself as much of a chance. Because at the end of the day, these aren't bad losses. You lost to Miami, who was the 5th team in the country, and you lost to Texas A&M, who I think they were the 18th ranked team in the country. They're going to be a top, at this point, they're probably going to be a top 10 team in the country after this win. So those aren't bad losses, but you have nothing else to really help your resume. So I'm going to be interested to see at the end of the season what they do about Notre Dame. But yeah, tough loss if you're Notre Dame. Want to just hit on a couple more games really quickly. Miami, this was another one we were wrong about. I thought South Florida was going to cover the spread the way they've been playing. I said in my preview, I thought South Florida was going to lose by double digits. I just thought that number was too big, especially with how well they've been playing. I thought 17.5 was just too many points. But Miami absolutely handled business. There was a weather delay that kind of could have disrupted things, but they didn't. They handled business, winning 49-12. The game was just never really competitive. Carson Beck, I think right now the Heisman front runner should be him and John Mateer, because Carson Beck has just been playing amazing this year. I think he threw for close to 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did have a couple interceptions, but nonetheless, he played good, made some amazing throws. And I think Miami is legit, man. It feels legit. Last year, they never really felt legit, even when they were winning all their games, because their defense was so bad. But here in the early season, their defense has been incredible. The defensive line is amazing. Reuben Baines is a monster. And if you can continue to get this solid play from Carson Beck, I think Miami, right now, they're clearly the best team in the ACC. I mean, Clemson, you can't even put Clemson in that conversation anymore, the way they've been playing. Miami is clearly the best team in the ACC. As it stands right now, I think it's their conference to win. Obviously, Georgia Tech's going to have something to say about that. Louisville is obviously going to have something to say about that, which that's going to be a pretty big game. Louisville versus Miami on October 17th. SMU, they struggled a little bit. I think they played, Arkansas State, Missouri State. They ended up winning that game, but they just didn't look complete there. But Florida State's obviously going to be in the mix as well. But as it stands right now, I think Miami is the team to be in the ACC, taking over Clemson's spot, because Clemson, again, just does not look good. So shout out Miami, man. Absolutely balling. Another big game that I unfortunately didn't get to watch, that I wish I did, was Vandy versus South Carolina. I can't remember, because this was not one of my locks on my preview that I released, but this was one, I can't remember. I may have said I'm leaning South Carolina slightly, and know why I said that because I was all over Vandy on this game. Could have been a Freudian slip or something, but I don't know why. If I did say South Carolina, why I said South Carolina, I bet for Vandy to cover the spread. I think their spread was 4.5. I got it at I think 5.5 or 6.5. But I was all over Vandy. I thought Vandy was going to win this game from the jump, man. Um, South Carolina, they both. I know you don't like to use this as a marker. You know what one team did, what two opponents did against the same team, because there's just so many different scenarios and factors that go into that. But I thought the Virginia Tech game, especially with how bad Virginia Tech looked against Old Dominion, that's a story for another day. Brent Pry, I just over the last few years, Virginia Tech just gets so much buzz. Kyron Drones, they get so much preseason buzz, and every year I never buy into the hype of Virginia Tech, and I don't know why. Every preseason, Virginia Tech is always some like dark horse team, some sleeper team. Like no, they're Virginia Tech. Truly, they are what they are. They are just not that great of a football team. But I thought both games against VT, Vandy versus VT, and South Carolina VT were very telling. South Carolina obviously struggled against Virginia Tech. Kind of had to have a punt return and some big plays late to kind of pull away. And Vanderbilt just kind of handled Virginia Tech. And I thought again that's pretty telling. And into this game, Diego Diego Diageo Pava. I don't know why I can't say his name, but he is, he's an absolute stud. He's just he's just a baller, man. He just gets you wins. He just gets you wins. But yeah, shout out to Vanderbilt for the big time win. Diago Pavia. I truly don't know why I just struggled so much saying that name. Diago Pavia. Before we get out of here, I want to quickly touch up on some of the Friday night action that we had. Specifically, two games and two teams, Kansas State and UCLA. If you're fans of these teams, it has to feel pretty terrible right now. Kansas State, this is a team who had preseason odds. I think they were. I know the Big 12 is all jumbled up, but I think Kansas State was tied for first to win the Big 12 at the preseason. I mean, this is a team that started out the season ranked. Obviously, Avery Johnson's coming back, Dylan Edwards, the running back, and a coach that every year just seems to turn out 10 wins. It seems like they win 8, 9, 10 games every single year, like no matter what. And for you to just, I guess the doubling curse is real. I don't know, because it can't be, because Iowa State is a team who played in that game and is looking good. But Florida State last year played at Dublin. I think it might be the loser of Dublin season is cursed, because Florida State, they lost in Dublin last year and their season just completely went off the rails. Kansas State lost in Dublin, and so far their season is starting to go off the rails. They are starting 1-3. They almost lost to North Dakota State, needed a game-winning touchdown to win that. They lost to Army, and then they go out on Friday night and lose to Arizona. This Arizona team, last year they had a lot of hype, and they just kind of completely folded. But they started out 3-0. Noah Fifita, he's looking good, man. This team is looking good. I think they're a team to look out for in the Big 12. And then UCLA, I mean, what are we doing, dude? UCLA might not win a game this year. Like, it is not far-fetched that they will win a game, that they won't win a game. If you're a Tennessee fan, I know the Tennessee fans are happy, man. You got rid of this guy. He was begging and demanding for $4.5 million, and to not have to pay him that, and to see what he's doing at UCLA, it's kind of funny, man. It's kind of funny. Kind of funny and not kind of funny at the same time. It's kind of sad as well, because this is a guy, Nico Iamaleava, obviously. I don't know if his parents had a little too much say in what was going on, but the grass isn't always greener, man. The grass is not always greener. You go to UCLA because you think you have a better opportunity to develop as a player. You get absolutely boat raced by Utah in the opener. UNLV comes into your house and dominates you, and then you just get you lose by 25 to New Mexico. Um, those are two Group of 5 teams, a Big 12 team and two Group of 5 teams, and they're not even in Big 10 play yet. They still have to play Penn State. They still have to play Indiana, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio State, UCLA, USC. Like, it's very they might not win a game. And if you're Nico, that's a tough situation. This was, a guy who was at Tennessee, kind of felt like he had things in place to get him to the next level. Obviously, Tennessee's been balling this year, and I have no concerns that Tennessee wouldn't have been good if they would have kept Nico. They made the playoffs last year with him, and with him not playing extremely well towards the end of the season. But to go to UCLA and just to completely stink the bed, start 0-3, not playing well. I don't even think it's hyperbole anymore. Like, he may have very well just costed himself a ton of money in the NFL. Just because I know all these executives like potential and they hold so much weight when it comes to recruiting stars and that stuff. I think is still going to make the NFL just because he's a 6'6" quarterback who has an arm, who can throw, who has potential, who has, supposedly has talent. But he could have very well went from a first-round draft pick at Tennessee to maybe not even getting drafted. Obviously, there's still a lot of time. He was a true freshman. He wasn't a true freshman. I think he was a redshirt freshman last year. I think he's a redshirt sophomore this year. So who knows if he's going to transfer after this year? Who knows what he's going to do? But that's a tough situation, man. That's a tough situation to leave a program like Tennessee to go stink the bed at UCLA. But yeah, just wanted to get that out there. That's all I have for today's episode. I appreciate you guys for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, share. I appreciate it. We might be back. I want to try and get another episode in before the preview for week 4. So I'm going to have to think of what kind of content I want to post, but stay tuned. I appreciate it. Thank you.